We're in Milltown State Park. This is in Missoula, Montana, and I brought you here for a specific reason. Today, we're going to be talking about shadow energy and positive energy dynamics. And this place really represents that because you have the industrious, the freeway, you can probably hear it in the background, along with this beautiful nature in the background as well. And this really symbolizes what shadow energy is versus positive energy. And these are dynamics that are a metaphor, but they're a little bit more than a metaphor. And we're gonna talk about that for you guys here today. This is a dynamic that's existed in nature and in the world and in philosophy, Eastern traditions for thousands of years. In fact, some would argue that it's been around since before we even had writing. The concept you may have heard of is called Yin and Yang in martial arts. They call it push and pull. They have the chaos and order of the Western philosophies. But the key here is most people misinterpret what this dynamic is supposed to be. Most people think shadow energy, the yang, is negative and the yin is positive. You may have listened to like New Age people, the people who are getting into the crystals and whatnot. They have a fixation on positive energy. It should always be positive, positive, positive. And that's not the case. Shadow energy is actually essential, but they have a really good reason for why they think shadow energy is bad. And I'm going to explain that dynamic for you guys here today. So, Carl Jung's 8 cognitive functions. This is an incredible topic. So, Carl Jung is a psychologist and a philosopher, and he discovered something very interesting about the human mind. You know how we have a left hand and a right hand? And you might prefer things with your left hand versus prefer things with your right hand. I'm left-handed myself, so let me tell you, using scissors, it's a nightmare. But what Carl Jung discovered is that the way that you have a left-hand preference or a right-hand preference, the way that you're born, you also have cognitive preferences. The way that you think is actually broken down into 8 different cognitive functions that each person chooses either left or right. Now, it's not actually left or right, but it's kind of a metaphor for you to understand this. Now, that information programs different people with different ways of seeing the world. So, as you can see behind me here, we have a beautiful mountainside. It's covered in trees. We have this river. It's actually produced through positive energy, which we'll be talking about here in a bit. But what's incredible is that I see something completely different than you see. So it might sound crazy that we're both seeing something totally different, but let me explain how this actually works from the cognitive functions. I'm what's known as an ENTP. So when I look out at this mountainside here, what I'm seeing is potential. I'm seeing opportunities. I'm seeing we could go kayaking, we could go fly fishing. There could be mushrooms in those trees over there. I'm thinking of all the possibilities and opportunities. Now, Alex, our camera woman here, is an ISFP. What she sees is the beauty. She's living in the moment. She's feeling an emotion just from being in the physical space. So even though we're both looking at this piece of nature, and you're looking at it right now, and probably seeing something totally different as well, we're both looking at the same image, but getting different information from the same data. And Carl Jung is telling us that we have this on purpose. There's too much information in the world for any one brain to process. So through, if you're a secular person, you could say natural selection, or if you're a religious person, God created us in unique, special ways to interpret different data so we could work together and compile that information together and understand the world better. So when you're presented with energy and data input into the world, that energy flows into your 8 cognitive functions, and you naturally actually try to fix that problem with your first 4 functions. You try and solve these issues in a positive energy way. That's what your normal self is. And unfortunately, most people can't relate with that. Most people don't understand that their natural state of being is to be in the moment, to be present, to be light, to be giving, to be childlike even. That's the way that you're supposed to be. And unfortunately, we have a society that's been built to designed specifically to activate your shadow. Most people live in their shadow state. You'll probably relate with this if you're always thinking of things. You're coming up and saying, but there could be this problem, there could be that, there could be that. It's these constant issues that arise because your brain has been trained by society to make you go into your shadow functions. Because when you're in a fight, flight, or freeze response state, you're a lot easier to market to sell, to manipulate. It's much easier for me to convince you to vote for me, because if you don't, you could die. That's why you're being constantly bombarded. If you look at your phone, after you watch this video, what you're gonna realize is that as you're going through social media, you're just gonna see embarrassment, gross, disgust, fear, anger. And these things are designed specifically and intentionally to trigger your fight or flight response. So then what's going on with you? If this is our natural state of being your childlike state, being positive, being free, going out and giving to the world and not thinking about all the risks and consequences, and your shadow is just kind of this fight or flight response. Why are you in that state so much? How is this happening? Well, have you ever tried to change your posture? If you haven't, I highly recommend you do. It's good for your health. I need to do it myself. But what you'll find is when you start trying to change your posture, what happens is you will find yourself constantly going back to the old way of being, the bad posture. So you have to catch yourself and pull yourself back. It's because you've developed a habit of going into that old way of being. That is what happens to people with shadow energy, but it gets worse. Most of society is financially incentivized to put you in a shadow energy state. Because as I mentioned before, it's easier to sell you a product, it's easier to keep you safe, it's easier to get you to do what you need to do to stay safe, right? That's the society, and it makes sense. You're a politician, you're a company. Do you want people going out and just exploring this beautiful nature on their own with no fear in the world? And then what happens? You're plastered all over billboards. You killed all these people, you didn't keep them safe. They're just trying to do their jobs, really. But what it ends up being is this manipulation to constantly be sending in the shadow energy into you. And if you're not prepared for it and you don't know how to handle it, you will very quickly develop a habit. What most people have happen is they'll experience a traumatic event in their life that puts them into a very strong shadow state, a fight or flight response. And what ends up happening is once they've gone deep into the shadow and had to stay there for a period of time, they'll get wrapped into some sort of system. Sometimes it's the news, sometimes it's drugs, sometimes it's being popular, sometimes it's a social cause, sometimes it's a political flag, whatever it is. They'll get wrapped into a system of shadow energy, and then they start developing bad habits. And so that's why so many people are constantly stuck in a shadow state of being. So now you might be telling yourself, like a lot of these people do, well then the shadow energy, it's just awful, it's just negative. In fact, listen to it right now. We're going by the freeway. That's a product of shadow energy. It's annoying, it's disruptive, it's destroying the beauty and the nature that we're surrounded in. And that's true. But it's also the supply chains. It's how we get fed. It's the reason that you're alive right now. If we didn't have shadow energy coming in and disrupting and helping us get these temporary gains in the moment, we'd literally all die. So we have to have some element of a fight or flight response. Imagine if you had no fears. You could imagine like a child, a child goes and tries to touch a light socket, right? Because they have no knowledge that that's something to be afraid of. That is an element of shadow energy. You want to put the shadow energy into the child, make them know this is dangerous, this is scary, this will kill you. Do not touch this. That is an important tool to have. Now, that being said, the key here is that's not supposed to be your natural state of being. Think back to when you were a kid. Did you go and think to yourself, okay, what I'm doing here is I am going to go out and meet these kids in the neighborhood, and I need to do this to build relationships and networks with people so that they'll become my friends, so that when I graduate high school, I'll have a job. No, what did you do? You went and played cops and robbers. You pretended to be the hero. You went out and you had fun and you lived in that moment. You lived in that energy. That's your natural state of being. But we're being taught by society that it needs to be shadow all the time. And the shadow has its purposes. We've got this noisy bridge, which is very disruptive. It's harder to hear, the audio's crap, but it's feeding people. It's saving people. It's getting people to a job. It's putting food on the table. It's getting money in people's pockets. So if you live in Western society, chances are you've been stuck in your shadow for a very long time. In fact, you probably identify your shadow as your regular self now. That was my old me, but I'm an adult now. Does that sound familiar? I have to be more strategic. I need to think things through. Well, what I'm about to show you is a little weird, and you might freak you out, okay? But I am going to let you tap back into your positive energy state right now. I'm going to show you how to do it. We're going to do it right here, and you're going to see that what I'm saying actually has some merit. Now, I might be crazy. I might be misunderstanding it. Don't just trust random guys on the internet, okay? Just give this a try. See if it works for you. If it doesn't, that's fine too. But you are going to experience that positive energy self again with the exercise that we're about to do. Now, before you start getting judgmental, before you start thinking weird thoughts, I want you to know up front, yes, this is called a breathing exercise. It's not yoga. We're not doing a meditation. We're not doing any spiritual stuff here, okay? This is scientific approach. What I'm going to try and do is make your brain think that it's about to die. I know that sounds crazy. That might sound scary, right? But we're not going to actually let you die. We just want to trick you into that. Why are we going to do that? Because we're going to trigger the most significant fight or flight response that your body can feel, because it thinks it's going to die, so that on the release, that deep press in, it's like in working out when you want to relieve stress in your muscles. You exercise the muscle as hard as you can and then release. And on that release, your body will reset itself. That's going to happen for you right here. Now, you're going to enter in the positive energy on the release. When that happens, you might be able to stay in there for a few seconds, a few minutes, and for a few of you, you might be able to instantly come back into your old self. Don't worry about where you fall into that, because once you felt it, it's become consciously aware. And that's what I'm going to give you here right now, is conscious awareness of the existence of that positive energy. And when you have that positive energy in your mind, you can then catch yourself, just like that bad posture we were talking about earlier, and you can say, I'm in a negative energy state, and bring yourself back into your positive being, because you know what it feels like. So, with that being said, we're going to do this breathing exercise here now, and you're going to experience that feeling of positive energy. How this is going to work is you want to take 30 deep breaths in, like so. I want you to do a full breath in, and then do a regular breath out, just an exhale. Natural breath out, not a full breath. That's a full breath. We're gonna go. We want to do that 30 times here in a row. Full breath in, natural exhale out. Now, why we're doing this is we're gonna get more oxygen in our blood, so that in a moment, you're gonna hold your breath. And your brain is gonna tell you, you need to breathe or you're gonna die while you're holding your breath. But because you have more oxygen than normal, you're gonna be able to go past that point and experience the fear of death and then coming back. And when you do your full breath in, at the end, you're gonna hold, and you will feel that positive energy state for a few minutes, maybe for the rest of your life, or even a few seconds. But the fact is, you will feel it. And when you feel it, you'll know it. And once you know it, it's yours to keep. All right, let's get this breathing exercise started right now. Let's begin in 3, 2, 1. In and out, in and out, In and out, and fully in, and fully out. And hold here. You're gonna hold your breath in this position and wait until you feel the desire to breathe again. And when you feel that need to breathe, I want you to push past it. You might feel your body start to shake. Just push as far as you can go. When you feel like you can't go any further, try and go a few seconds past. And when you're ready, and take as much time as you need, you're going to do a full breath in. I'll give you some time to do that now. Now fully in, and hold that there, and feel that energy in your body. And I want you to, and this is gonna sound wild, but I want you to imagine that energy you're feeling now, and hold on to it, and just breathe out the air. In 3, 2, 1. If your eyes are closed, you can open them now. And that's being in the moment. That's your natural state of being. That's your positive energy. And I'm gonna try something special for you. Now, you may have lost it already and gone back to, I don't know if this is right, but if not, I want you to stay in that moment, and I'm gonna show you how quickly it can come back here with the magic trick. Magic, which is my art, I've done it since I was 8 years old, is an incredible art form, in my opinion. The reason I love it is it allows me to help people bring about positive energy back into their life. When you do magic and a person experiences it, they can go back to a state of childlike wonder, that positive energy state, for just a bit. And that's what magic really gives. The reason people go and pay $5,000, $10,000 for a magic show to go and entertain people is because we're literally giving them a childlike experience for just a moment, because they're so stuck in their shadow. We're actually able to break them free. In fact, this is one of the sad things, is you see in magic, you run into people who can't escape their shadow. They have to analyze it, they have to figure it out, they have to think about the puzzle, they have to solve the problem because they're still stuck in their shadow. They can't break free and experience the childlike wonder of, wow, there's still mystery in the world. And that's a positive energy state of being. So I'm gonna try and do that again for you right now with the magic trick, and see if we can give you that childlike state of wonder. Because you've done it once, I wanna show you that you have it forever now. But this time, you're gonna be doing it consciously. I'm gonna riffle through the deck of cards here, and I want you to look at the first card that catches your eye. Don't pick the Ace of Spades though, because everyone picks the Ace of Spades. I'm gonna go ahead and do that for you real quick. It might have been a little too fast here. I'll give you some time. Go ahead, get the first card that catches your eye. Did you get one? Perfect. All right. What I'm going to do now is I want you to take a look at the top card of the deck. That's the 3 of clubs. The 3 of clubs is not your card. I want you to visualize the card you just saw personally on that card now. In 3, 2, 1. That feeling you feel right now is positive energy. I hope that that is a good experience for you, and I want you to be able to be consciously aware of it so you can go back to this space again in the future using the techniques we're teaching you right now to bring it into conscious awareness. Now, my trick on a camera, not as powerful. If you didn't feel it, it's okay. The point is, you now are consciously aware from this breathing technique and this magic trick how positive energy feels, how it feels to be yourself again, and that it's there. Just like that bad posture, you can start to catch yourself when you're in a negative energy state and bring it to that positive awareness consciously now. And if you're in doubt, go do a breathing exercise, go see a magic show, go have dinner with your friends, go explore nature, go camping, and disconnect, and you will see that positive energy comes back now. All right, so now that you've felt that experience, we're gonna go deep on these topics. I want to get into the nitty-gritty of shadow energy versus positive energy for you guys here. Well, let's talk about the nature of shadow energy and why it's not your enemy. It's just a bad habit that you're in now. We don't wanna be all positive and we don't wanna be all shadow. We want a good mixture of both. Now, the society that you live in right now wants you to stay in a shadow state. They want you in a state of fear because you're easier to control, easier to keep safe, and at the end of the day, the society doesn't care if you're happy, they care if you're safe. Because guess what? You being unhappy doesn't put them in jail. You getting killed because you're doing something, because you're reckless, that gets them in trouble. You have to learn how to manage this situation because the cards are stacked against you right now unless you learn how to manage this on your own. The good news is it's all by choice. They're actually trying to get you addicted to systems that generate shadow energy. Because think about it from like a survival standpoint. If you are going in the realm of the world, you're walking out in the woods and you're not anticipating a bear, right? You're not thinking there could be a bear, and you screw it up once and there is a bear, you're dead. That's it. It's the end of your life. So your brain prioritizes shadow energy. And so it is going to respond much more to threats. That's why it's much more effective from a marketer to tell you, if you don't lose 20 pounds, you're going to get a heart attack and die. It's much more effective than, hey, don't you want to look a little bit better, be a little bit more fit, and just have a healthier life? Not as persuasive, right? That's shadow energy at work. The problem is, it's very easy to get addicted to this state of mind. And what happens is your mind, once it's gotten into that habit of that state, it's going to constantly say, well, I checked that there's no bears, but have I checked to see if there's mountain lions? Have I checked to see if the ground is stable? Have I checked to see if I paid my bills yet? Have I checked to see if I still have a job? Your brain will come up with all these different ways to generate shadow energy. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, you want to use shadow energy to give yourself a kick in the butt, to get you to go to the gym, to get out and work. You need to use shadow energy productively. But you probably know how to do that very well now since you've been in that state for so long. So let's talk more about how to break free of that. And the secret to doing that is to just disconnect from the negative stimuli. This is as simple as going out into nature like we are now. If you disconnect, turn off your phones, you just have you and the world. And once you verify that there's no bears, you don't have to worry about the bears anymore. And you can just be in the moment. And you'll find that your mind starts to find things to freak out about. And when that happens, try that breathing exercise again. See how that works for you. And you'll start to realize that you can be your old self again. And once you become consciously aware of shadow energy and consciously aware of positive energy, the next step, the next question is when to use this shadow energy. The reason you use shadow energy is for immediate results. It's a destructive force. It's draining on our souls, our being, to be in a shadow state. But it gets the job done. You need shadow energy for those temporary situations where you're going in and it's about getting the job done. You know, I feel tired, I don't want to go to work today, but you pick yourself up and you get in there to get the paycheck, right? Other examples of shadow energy is when you're needing in a dangerous situation, you need to be safe. That's a good example of using shadow energy. Or you're planning your future. You want to think, what are the negative things that could happen as well as the positive? You want to look at both sides of the equation. But what you certainly don't want to be doing is using shadow energy all of the time. You want to make sure that the majority of your time is spent in a positive energy state because that is your natural way of being. So how does positive energy work? I like to think of it as an analogy. Negative energy is going out and hunting. You're going out and you're catching a deer and you've got meat on the table that night. Positive energy is planting seeds in a garden. It's not going to immediately give you results, but over the long run, if you keep feeding it more and more, you're going to have an abundance and an everlasting source of nutrition for your friends and your family for generations to come. That's how positive energy works versus negative energy. You want to use positive energy the majority of the time because you want to be sowing your seeds because it takes time for them to grow. So the good news with positive energy is rather than being a drain on you like negative energy is, positive energy actually fills you back up. You get more energy from living that way. Now be careful, because if you're always sowing your seeds and the winter is coming, guess what? You better go and hunt some deer, or you're not going to have meat on your table and you'll starve. Positive energy is not all good. It can hurt you, so you have to be careful with this. Now I have something really freaky to tell you. Society is attacking you on two different sides. Not only are they trying to put you into a shadow state, but they're aware that you can't just always be in a negative state, or you'll literally become depressed and you might off yourself. It's really bad. And so what they do is they'll actually take positive energy activities, repackage them, and then put an addictive element and then hand it back to you to give you something to recharge. Think about yourself when you were a kid. When you were a kid, you just went out and played. You went out to the beach and you built a sandcastle and you felt great, right? Now, as an adult, you might find yourself not able to enjoy a beach unless you're out there with a martini and having your book to read and having an iPhone to post Instagram photos to. Those are all repackaged positive energy that then has an addictive element. Alcohol as a drug, for example. Social media as a dopamine response. The book lets you go and venture into a fantasy world in your head. And now I'm not saying that those are all evil, horrible things. You should never do them, blah, blah, blah. I'm saying that they've been designed to allow you to have a little bit of that positive energy that we just showed you could get from breathing. Breathing. You can get it for free at any time, but now there's a price tag on it, right? Now you've got to pay to get that positive energy back. And that's a very scary system to be in. Is it to say all of those systems are terrible and horrible and you should never do them? No. What I'm saying is you should be able to be in a positive energy state naturally all of the time without spending any money and without having to exert effort and travel to some exotic location. You should be able to walk out your back door, sit out in the park, and experience it right then and there. So now that you understand the nature of negative energy and positive energy, and how negative energy is a destructive force for temporary, immediate gains, and positive energy is a long-term investment in your natural state of being, the being that you should be the majority of the time because it fills you up. Let's get back to what we were talking about with Carl Jung's cognitive functions. Now, if you've been to one of my personal development dinners, we go over this in great detail, telling you about your own personal superpowers, because what's really crazy about these functions is each person has their unique set of skills that are literally, not figuratively, like real life superpowers that people have. And when you experience how incredibly effective you can be by focusing on your true gifts and strengths rather than what school has tried to do with shadow energy and teach you that everyone's a cog in a machine and should be the same way. And that's just not how we are. How we are is special and unique, and we have special, unique gifts and weaknesses. When you start applying positive and shadow energy, these both, not positive only, not shadow only, both work together synergistically to make your personality type unique to you, and the strengths for your shadow and the strengths for the positivity are unique to who you are as a person and how your cognitive stack fits out. So despite you being unique, despite you having a different view of how that mountain looked than I do, we both use positive energy and shadow energy. So you don't need to worry so much about how your unique situation is with this topic. Instead, you can just focus on this core concept of shadow and positive energy. Those will help you no matter what your personality is, no matter what cognitive stack you have, and you can use this to your advantage whether you've gone to a personal growth dinner or not. You can start applying this principle here today. And this all comes together, and this is a great example. As you can see, shadow energy, the train going by, the freeway, the difficulty hearing my voice now because it's so loud, and the beautiful nature in the background. You have them both working together. A train delivering food and supplies that keep us alive, and a beautiful mountain range built by God that's filling your soul with good energy and positive vibrations that all the hippies are saying. You can get both. They can work together. and you can start using them both for yourself. Don't just go in one way or the other, because you can go bad either way. It's about learning what the martial artist taught us, like we talked about in the beginning. There is push and there is pull, and you need both. And if you don't have both, a yin and a yang, you will be out of balance and it won't work for you. But now you know how it works. Now you know how to feel positive energy. You know how to feel negative energy. And so that'll never be your case anymore. As long as you hold on to this memory, you are going to be able to live a positive lifestyle and a shadow lifestyle when it is advantageous to you. And I hope this helped you out. Thank you for joining us here in Missoula, Montana. I hope you enjoyed the scenery today and what we're talking about. And I hope to see you guys soon. Go ahead and, follow me on whatever programming algorithm machine that controls your dopamine is. On Instagram, TikTok, whatever. I'll see you there. Bye.